The photograph was one of my favorites. My 6-year-old daughter, Lily, had wrapped both arms around my neck after I surprised her at her school picnic. She was laughing so hard that her little sneakers were dangling in the air, and I was smiling without even realizing someone had captured the moment. It wasn't a posed picture or one meant for social media. It was simply a snapshot of pure happiness between a father and his daughter, the kind of memory you hope will last forever. I had no idea that same photograph would become the center of one of the most painful moments of my life. My older sister, Vanessa, had always been outspoken. Growing up, she rarely missed an opportunity to remind me of my mistakes. When I became a father at 21, she treated it as confirmation that I had ruined my future. While I finished college at night, worked 2 jobs during the day, and raised Lily after her mother moved overseas, Vanessa continued believing my entire life was defined by one decision I made in my early 20s. No matter how much I accomplished afterward, she never seemed willing to let go of the past. One Saturday afternoon, while scrolling through my phone during Lily's dance class, I noticed several messages arriving almost simultaneously. "Have you seen what Vanessa posted? You need to check Facebook. I'm so sorry." Confused, I opened the app. There it was, the very photo from the school picnic. Above it was a caption that made my stomach drop. "Some mistakes grow up and make more mistakes." At first, I couldn't even process what I was reading. Then I noticed hundreds of reactions and dozens of comments. Some people assumed it was an inside joke, others laughed. A few asked who she was talking about. No names had been mentioned, none were necessary. Everyone who knew our family understood exactly who she meant. My hands began shaking, not because she had insulted me. I'd grown used to that. It was because she had included my daughter in the insult. Lily, a cheerful 6-year-old who still believed the world was mostly kind. I reported the photo immediately. But it remained online. For several hours I simply stared at my phone, wondering whether to respond publicly or privately. Every angry message I imagined writing felt wrong. Every calm response felt too weak. In the end, I closed the app and drove home. That evening my phone rang. It was my mother. "I just saw it." "So did I. I've already called your sister." I sighed. "It won't change anything. You don't know that. I know Vanessa." The next morning the post was still there. More comments had appeared overnight. Some defended me, others criticized Vanessa for dragging a child into family conflict. Finally, I received a message from her. "People are overreacting." It was only a joke. I stared at the screen. A joke. That single word somehow made everything worse. I typed several replies before deleting each one. Eventually I wrote only one sentence. "If the joke requires humiliating a 6-year-old, it isn't funny." She never answered. A week later my parents invited everyone to Sunday dinner. Part of me wanted to stay home. Instead, I went, not because I expected an apology, because I refused to let someone else's behavior keep me away from family. The atmosphere was painfully awkward from the moment I arrived. Vanessa barely looked at me. Dinner passed in uncomfortable silence until my father finally placed his fork on the table. "We need to talk." Nobody argued. He turned toward Vanessa. "I saw your post." She shrugged. "It wasn't that serious." "It was. You all know I was talking about him." Dad nodded. "I know. So what's the problem?" He looked directly at her. "You were also talking about Lily." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, no." His voice remained calm. "Not please." She crossed her arms. "I never mentioned her. You called a child a mistake. I called his choices mistakes." Dad remained silent for several seconds before speaking again. "When your niece grows old enough to read those words someday." The room became completely still. "What exactly do you hope she understands?" Vanessa didn't answer. Mom quietly added, "Children eventually see everything." For the first time, uncertainty appeared on my sister's face. Later that evening, after everyone had left the table, she found me outside loading leftovers into my car. She stood beside me awkwardly. I didn't think about Lily reading it. I kept arranging containers inside the trunk. I know, I really didn't. I believe you, she sighed heavily. I was angry. At me? She looked away. No, then. Who? Myself. That answer surprised me. She continued quietly. I've spent years pretending I had everything figured out. I waited. My marriage is falling apart. I looked at her. I lost my promotion, she laughed bitterly, and somehow criticizing you made me feel better for 5 minutes. Neither of us spoke. Finally she whispered, that was unfair. I nodded, yes, and cruel, yes. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. The apology didn't erase the post or the embarrassment it caused, but it felt genuine. I'll delete it. Thank you, and I'll write a public apology. I smiled slightly. Don't do it for me. She frowned. Do it because one day Lily might see it. Vanessa nodded slowly. I understand. Several days later, the photograph appeared online again. This time the caption was different. It simply read, one of the strongest fathers I know. Raising an incredible little girl who deserves nothing but love. No dramatic explanation followed, no attempt to justify the past, just those words. Looking back, I realized something important. People often believe the deepest wounds come from strangers, but sometimes the sharpest pain arrives through those who know exactly where our vulnerabilities lie. Yet those same relationships also carry the possibility of growth when pride gives way to honesty. My daughter was never a mistake. She was, and always will be, the greatest blessing to enter my life. Every difficult decision I made, every sacrifice, every sleepless night and long workday became worthwhile the moment she smiled and wrapped her arms around my neck. No careless sentence on social media could ever change that truth. In the end, the opinions that matter most are not written beneath photographs or measured in online reactions. They are reflected in the eyes of the little girl who still runs toward me every afternoon, believing with all her heart that her father is exactly where he is meant to be.